This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and these are your headlines. An Indian spokesman says Cambodia is a centre for cyber crimes. Fire deaths have dramatically increased this year. And we tell you why hit and run deaths have soared over the new year. But firstly, our headline story. The head of India's cybercrime unit has said this week that an incredible 50% of all its cybercrime complaints have their origins in China. And the other main countries responsible are Cambodia and Myanmar. And the amount of money involved in these scams is way beyond anything you could possibly imagine. The Chief Executive Officer of India's Cybercrime Coordination Centre is saying that 50% of all cybercrime complaints received on the National Helpline every single day are related to these three countries. That's China, Cambodia and Myanmar. Addressing a press conference this week, he said that on average there are 5,000 cyber complaints in the country every single day. And when combined, that number in 2023 alone adds up to over 1.5 million crime complaints. In the past 5 years, there have been 3.1 million cases filed, and you can only imagine as to how much money is involved in these scams. Well, in fact, it doesn't. It stretches into the trillions. I'm coming off script here because I've actually just fact-checked something that was given to me. And quite incredibly, in 2022, over $6 trillion was stolen. 6 trillion in 1 year. Now, I found this graphic that I'm now putting on your screen, and that is a stack of $100 bills, and that makes up 6 trillion. And to the left, where I'm going to zoom the camera now, that would be the height of a standard human being next to $6 trillion in $100 bills. And I think that gives you a very clear idea as to how much money is involved here. So how is it that they are getting away with your money? Now on the screen we have a graphic, and obviously there is cross-germination with the numbers because one scam can involve many different elements. But what we see is 51% is involving impersonation fraud of some sort. That's where they steal your private data. Then we have counterfeit goods scams, 42%, and still very big is the get-rich-quick scams at 40%. But there's something very interesting that you personally should look out for, and that's in the smaller columns on the left hand side at 37%, computer software services. This is huge in Asia, and do keep your ears and eyes out for this one, because what it is people will phone you and say they're representing Google, YouTube, Microsoft, whoever, and they will say they need you to open your laptop and just run some very simple tests. Now here's the thing, if anyone ever phones you and says they're from one of those big companies, they ain't, because they never phone anyone. And secondly, if anyone says open your laptop, don't do it. I guarantee 100% it's a scam. And just below that one in the ranking is the fake employment scam. That's another great way of getting money out of innocent victims. And right behind that at 29% is romance and dating scams, something we may all be a little bit weak to. But those kind of scams have been going on even before the internet, even before the telephone, and were committed when it was just mail, people writing by post. But if I was to ask you, when was the first ever electronic scam committed? I don't think you would guess how long ago it was, because it was prior to the internet. It was all the way back in 1834 in France, when attackers stole a financial market report by accessing the French telegraph system. And they did what all scammers do today. They harvested information and then they converted that into money. So as far back as 1834, people were trying to steal data so they could convert it into cash. And the fact of the matter is, if you have any doubts at all, or if you feel uncomfortable, then say nothing. Just put down the phone. For if it's serious, trust me, they'll get back to you. On this week's Crime Desk, a pile of bodies left behind by hit and run drivers, yet more police officers caught on drugs, and there's a police chief who has an awful lot of explaining to do. Oh dear, here I stand again, telling of hit and run drivers. But it's not 1, 2, 3, or even 4 or 5, but 6 dead in one single day. The numbers have now been released by the police, and there was an incredible 9 hit-and-run accidents in Phnom Penh that claimed 6 lives on New Year's Eve alone. Yes, just one single day. 9 accidents where drivers fled, leaving the 6 dying. And that is appalling. You can't deny that's a whole load of blood on the tarmac, and very little in the way of justice for the victims or for their families. But to equal the scales, Phnom Penh Police Chief Lieutenant General Narin has ordered manhunts for the perpetrators and set up a team to monitor these investigations. He himself has said, in cases of hit and run, the perpetrators cannot escape the law. And I hope he's very much right. Another police officer is up on corruption charges. And as I keep saying about these stories, they are in fact good news stories, as it shows there's a real shift. And that says you may be a police officer, but you are not above the law. And those that think they are will be dealt with. And on this occasion, it was a very senior officer, as a police chief has been reported by his very own officers. In Kambol district, police officers issued complaints against their chief, accusing him of corruption. And it is beyond belief that 49 policemen filed complaints against their chief, saying he was corrupt. And he was forcing officers to pay him up to $200 a month. And with just 49 officers, that can pile up to $10,000 in cash every single month. And there is more, for if you wanted a promotion within his police department, that would cost you $1,500 extra. The Phnom Penh Municipal Police leadership has said it is at current considering how to discipline him. And shall we say the tidying up of the police department continues, as another 10 more policemen have been fired in yet more drug testing. It was announced this week that 10 more police officers under the General Commission of the National Police have been fired after testing positive for drugs. This was confirmed by a spokesman of the Ministry of Interior, and he said that the officers with the highest rank, being Lieutenant Colonel, were found to have drugs within their systems. Included were officers from the Maritime Police Department,
1 from the Private Security Department, 2 from the Phnom Penh Municipal Police, 3 from Tobong Kumon Province, 3 from Kampang Spew, and 2 from Stung Tren Province. This is an ongoing cull of officers, as scores of them have been found and tested positive for drugs, and they have subsequently been kicked off the force. And these are just the latest to be fired, due to the PM issuing orders saying anyone in the force using drugs is to be expelled. No excuses, just get rid of them. There has been a considerable rise in fire deaths last year. The number of deaths and injuries resulting from fires across Cambodia increased significantly in 2023 compared to all other previous years, with the total death toll hitting a record 54. And that, very worryingly, is an increase of 23%. And the leading cause of these fire-related deaths is something that dwells in each and every household. And you, yourself, would be very wise to take precautions against becoming the next fire victim.
The Fire Department of the Ministry of Interior reported that last year more than 50 people were killed and 97 injured in fire-related incidents across the country. Compared to 2022, there was just 17 deaths and 24 injuries. The director of the Interior Ministry's Fire Police Department said this week that for all of 2023, there was an increase of 23% in fire-related deaths. He also added that in 2023, 761 cases of fire occurred, killing 54 people, injuring another 97. And quite incredibly, nearly 600 houses were completely destroyed. Now allow me to get to the meat of this story. What is it that has caused this alarming rise in fires and the related deaths? And is it something that you should be concerned about? Well, in a single word, yes. Yes, you should be very worried, for most fires were the result of electrical faults. In fact, an incredible 41% were due to those electrical faults. And those are the kind of things that you cannot see with the naked eye. The two main issues being bad wiring installed by those that are not fully qualified, and of course cheap electrical items that are inherently dangerous as they are so very badly made and are liable to spark or worse still burst into flames. Now the number 2 reason for these fires is much more avoidable, and that is using wood or charcoal for cooking. For those accounted for over 40% of fires. Some proved to be fatal. Almost each and every time a fire was left unattended, and it has spread to set a home ablaze. But there were some words of scorn from a Mr. Heng Kim Hong, president of the Cambodia Youth Network Association. For he said this week that in some cases, firefighters did not respond in time. He said that the Fire Police Department should promote their skills and go through more training so that they could improve their firefighting ability. And also, he said to save more lives, there had to be more fire trucks available on the streets.
And our final story this week is not so much a story, but a single picture, one that affected me greatly. And on its own, it is a complete story. You see, there was a tragic incident this week One of a young lad who leapt to his death from a bridge in Phnom Penh. His name was Ra, and he was just 19 years old. It seems he had an argument with his fiancée, and after speaking with a friend, the victim rode his motorbike onto a bridge and then jumped to his death. But before he did, he took off his shoes and placed them oh so neatly on the pavement. And then he placed his phone with his photo showing on top of those shoes. It is that image I wish to show you, as it is a photo that is so very clear, and it shows as to how very tragic it is when a young person takes their own life. To me, the picture is haunting, and it shows the tragedy that took place that dark night in the capital. The only question it really asks, though, is what lessons can be learned to prevent such a tragic event ever happening again.
It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week. Okay, so here we are at the weather time. Oh God, I've done it again. I'm not joking you. Here we go. Right, there's the chart. Actually, whilst I'm here, I may as well tell you. Guess, oh, it's bloody, oh, look, it's me. Stop it. Right, okay. Right, the chart's back on my screen. Then I have to press pause. That's what I keep forgetting to do each week. There we go. Where was I? Oh, yes, it's my 100th show. Did you know that? No, nobody's noticed, only me. It's my 100th show this episode. And I'm rather pleased with that. But now, less of the bumbling and on to the weather. Sun and cloud, and no rain on the chart. That's the first time we've had that for months. So it seems my 100th show has brought us all a bit of the sunshine. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly roundup.